All right. Hello, Creative Mornings. How's everybody doing today? All right. I love that energy, especially early. So I'll try to keep it going and try to not bore you today with a little bit of a talk about innovation. And I want to start with one question, right? It's pretty simple and straightforward, but there's a lot of different answers. I really like Jenny's answers that she just gave you just then when she talked about innovation. And that is, what does it mean to be innovative, right? What is innovation? In some of the circles that I traverse, they like to use a really narrow definition. And I think it really spawns from the National Science Foundation's definition. And they talk about and they focus on scientific discoveries, right? And new technologies and incredible new developments. But I don't think that's right. I think that's wrong. Certainly that is innovation and that is innovative, but at its core, innovation is much broader, it's much bigger, and it's something that anybody can do. It's really pretty simple. I think innovation represents any time somebody creates something that wouldn't have otherwise existed. They create something new, right? Whether that's a piece of art, a service, a simple business model, just anything that you create that wouldn't have otherwise existed. That is innovation at its core, and really anyone can do it. And I want to tell you about that today, and tell you about a little bit how I've tried to embody that throughout my career and with some of the founders I've worked with. I developed a different version of this talk today, and it was filled, I told a couple of you this morning, it was filled with stuff. Stats, facts, empirical evidence that talked about the ways innovation have impacted us on a global scale and reduced poverty and saved the environment. A lot of facts, a lot of empirical evidence, a lot of research, World Bank, OECD stuff. So I put that all together, and we can talk about that. And if anybody's a nerd like me and wants to do that after, I'll stick around. I think that stuff's fun. I sent that to my 19-year-old intern, and I'll quote her directly. I think this is really good, but I also think it's going to be super boring. Super boring. So I took that constructive criticism, I guess, from my intern, and I redid it. And I thought I'd just tell some stories today. And I'll start with my own story, which that looks like a great story, right? 3-time successful founder, transition into successful professor who is educating the next generation of entrepreneurs. Right? That'd look great on the bottom of a LinkedIn profile. It's not on mine, by the way, because it's not true. It's not true at all. Not even close. So not a 3-time successful founder. I did start 3 businesses before going back to school and getting my Ph.D. Sure, that is true. That's absolutely true. And I'll tell you a little bit about those. And I've started a bunch more ever since. But the first one was a simple service-based business. And I had the wrong partners. I could never really deliver the value proposition that I wanted to. And I couldn't scale it. So I got out of that one. And then I started a new business that was in the eyewear sector. So we were trying to make glasses with a new technology of sorts. And we wasted so much time and energy and money. And at some point, eventually, it kind of transitioned to a lifestyle business. I started thinking about going back to school, started teaching, but there wasn't much success to be had there either. And then the third one was really exciting to me because it was in the golf industry. I'm a golfer. We were going to bring something new to the industry, new to the game, right? And we did. We created a brand new club with a new technology. And let me tell you, this was a complete, unmitigated disaster, right? That literally wasted millions of dollars in the end. This was an all-out loss, all right? This is scorched earth. This is There's nothing there. So that was that. Those are those 3 times successful founder. I decided to go back to school and get my Ph.D. All right. And what I've tried to do since then is really embody this innovative approach and this entrepreneurial mindset, which, as I said, I think you can do that in everything you do. And I've tried to do that in my career and with my founders, and it's worked to some extent. That's why I want to share it with you today. Now, it hasn't worked easily, and it's taken a really long time. And the truth is, I'm not supposed to be here. Literally, I'm not. Not here this morning, I figured that out. No problem, I'm supposed to be up here today, I knew that. But at Florida Atlantic University. So I graduated from here back in 2016. And fun fact about the academic system in the United States, where you graduate from, you're not supposed to be hired. They don't hire you. But at that time when I was working on my PhD, there was a lot of innovative things going on right here at Florida Atlantic. There was another fantastic innovator that was creating something from nothing. And she was creating a new venture accelerator that was different than anything else I'd seen at any other university. Not to mention I'm from South Florida, I love South Florida. This was the right place for me to be. So against my PhD advisor's judgment and strongly worded advice, I got involved with it instead of focusing on my research. But I got the research stuff done. I finished the degree, right? A great dissertation. Secret about that, any done dissertation is a great dissertation. Mine wasn't great, but it's done. So that counts, right? So I did get involved with it, and I loved it. And I loved the people and the mission and what they were doing for founders. They're changing founders' lives, and I was able to witness that firsthand. But remember that rule? I can't work here. Have to go off and be successful at another university. But I didn't want to do that. I really didn't want to do that. So I did. I took a job here. I weaseled my way in. Over, well, not quite a decade ago, but, I've skipped around. Oh, here we go. So, not an option. I got a job here, visiting professor. It sounds like a nice title. What does that mean? It means it's an expiring contract. This ends. You are fired at the end. They're 9 months long. That's how it starts. But I tried to be creative, I tried to be innovative, and I tried to get involved in more things and do things and create new things that wouldn't otherwise exist. And I had hoped, hey, maybe they'll keep me here if I create enough stuff, right? Also got a job as a mentor, which was a lot of fun, but that's just a volunteer. So not a great contract, not a great scenario, but I just started. So then they gave me a position as an instructor, which was a little gap, right? That wasn't an expiring contract, but in the academic world, it's sort of the lowest of the low you can go. But that's fine, I was here, right? And at that time, I re-envisioned our entrepreneurship boot camp, which we had kind of gone away, and I reimagined it. And it was open to the community, and it was open to the students, and it was open to faculty, and it was new. And it created value. And people saw that. So they gave me another job as the assistant director of the Adams Center for Entrepreneurship, and a little bit more responsibility. And I said, what else can I do? I should create some more new stuff. So I did, right? I created a workbook called New Venture Launchpad, now New Venture Launchpad 2.0. I used that for the boot camp. People started adopting that and using it for their classes. It was totally different. It's not a textbook. It's a practical field guide for entrepreneurs. It's what you need to know to start a business. It's not a bunch of keywords and vocabulary and exams. It's how do I do this? A practical guide. That practical guide was later translated into Spanish. representing one of the first and only, to my knowledge, Spanish language entrepreneurship boot camps. So we built that out. Along the way, I continued to publish research. I tried to publish interesting research. I tried to focus on new venture finance because all the founders I worked with were like, we need funding, we need funding, we don't understand funding. So I tried to build up an expertise in that space as well. I started a podcast. A few of you are probably familiar with the Shrimp Tank podcast, where we interview and learn from a local founder right here in the South Florida community that is and has been successful, right? Then I started teaching at the Runway. I became the lead instructor at our accelerator program. I became a graduate instructor. I became the director of our Veterans Entrepreneurship program, and then I became the director of the Adams Center for Entrepreneurship, and now the director of Tech Runway. So at this point, I'm here, and I credit it all to being creative and innovative, as well as a couple other factors, including mentorships, teams, which I'll talk a little bit more about. But that is the story of how I've tried to use creativity and innovation to have an innovative career, right? Not being a founder. You don't have to be a founder to embody innovation and creativity and an entrepreneurial mindset. And that's my primary message today. That's the way I did it. There's an infinite number of ways to do it, and I've been lucky enough to witness some of those other more creative ways. Like when a young kid re-envisions the way entrepreneurs run their business and fulfill their orders in the e-commerce world, right? Small and medium-sized businesses who need this support to do their job and get their products to their customers, and that becomes a billion-dollar business today that employs more than 3,000 people. Or it can be something simple, right? A technology that you employ so you don't have to wait for 20 minutes to visit your friends who live in these gated communities, right? Anybody familiar with that in Boca? That's Tap to Open. There's a solution for that. Or you make a beautiful semi-customizable line of swimsuits, and lucky enough, Kim Kardashian decides to wear one and post about it on the internet. Right? That's a founder who learned how to sew the first versions of those swimsuits from her Haitian grandmother and sewed them herself. A million ways to be innovative. You can create a business model where you pull 30 million pounds of trash out of the world's waterways. That's what 4Ocean did. Yeah, that's Alex and Andrew, fantastic founders. Or you can be a serial tech entrepreneur who's just sick and tired of having to keep shopping for insurance, right? Your insurance goes up, you got to shop it again. Why not automatically shop it? That's squeeze. Or you can try to get rid of all these invasive species everywhere, right? These iguanas are out of control. He traps them, he removes them. Simple, right? But innovative, new, creative, and creating value for homeowners, for communities, for businesses, for golf courses. It's fantastic. Or you can re-envision mentorship by creating a group of mentors that is not affiliated or constrained by one university, not tied to a university. That's innovation. That creates value. That's the venture mentoring team. Or you can be a faculty member, right, who creates an empowerment program that's a nonprofit that serves students who have dealt with homelessness and foster care. That's here. That's Champions Empowering Champions. But innovation is hard. It's really hard, no matter which way you try to do it. So the only other thing I really want to talk about today is some of the things I've noticed and some of the things I've tried to employ that can enable more success when trying to be entrepreneurial and when trying to be innovative, right? So you need a team, right? You saw some of those photos, you saw those Forbes people. That's an easier media story to tell, okay? I'm here today, you see my picture on the thing, this guy. Okay, you need a team. I have a team, I have a fantastic team. Some of them are here today. I have fantastic teams all over. So I look at 3 teams. You have your internal team. That's typically like the business, right? There's really 2 of those. You have your business as the people on the inside, right? All of those people. And you also need your friends and family, right? That is your personal team. Friends, family, colleagues, maybe your friends at Creative Morning, right? And then I think just as important is that external team. You need someone else's opinion who is not on the inside of the family, of the business, of the organization. We're going to say, I don't really think that sounds right. And who else have you talked to about this? And you need great mentors, right? We have a great mentor program here. I've seen its effectiveness, and it has a tremendous impact on founders and young people. I've had great mentors throughout my whole career, and they've impacted me. So you really got to have that. And I'm here to encourage you, don't be afraid to ask. I have been, fairly successful kind of in my career. That was that slide that somehow ended up a little bit out of order, right? I won't go all the way back, but this year, because I've picked up so many of those awards, right? And people have said, wow, you're like an overnight success. I've been doing this every day for a decade, so if that's an overnight success, then I am, right? But it's attributed to the team. The teams I've worked with, those internal and external teams. Without them, I couldn't do any of this. And I see founders are the same things. A lot of times founders end on the front of magazines. They have teams. You need a team. Everybody needs multiple teams, internal and external. Then there's a couple characteristics that help. Just a few, just 4 things I'm gonna note that I've noticed working with thousands of founders. Perseverance and persistence. Every single one of those companies you see right there, they were building something that at some point in time, it was unclear whether or not it could be done. Literally, can this be done? It wasn't ever a question, should this be done? Should this be a product? Should this be a service? Can it? Can it even exist? Can you use epigenetics, not genetics, as Andrea has corrected me 20 times, epigenetics to tell the age of an adopted pet, a dog or cat? Can you do it? I have no idea. Turns out you can, right? Can you pump air on the bottom of the world's largest ocean liners to reduce their drag so they're using less diesel fuel? Yeah, you can, but it's really, really hard and takes a lot of advanced technology and persistence and perseverance. Or reimagining how enterprise software is scoped and sold. That's Zemet. They were sold to Workday for over 9 figures. It also takes passion. If you're passionate, it helps with innovation and creativity, for sure. And I know a bunch of different founders. You can literally be passionate about being successful and having a successful business and making money. I think that's absolutely fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, if that's you. But there's also other individuals that truly have a passion for what they're doing. It's about that. It's not about the success of the business or the monetary value. It's about the outcome, right? For Carbon Limit, it's about pulling millions of pounds of CO2 out of the world's atmosphere, right? For Child Rescue Coalition, it's literally having over 10,000 child predators arrested. It's pretty easy to be passionate about some of these things. For Mind and Melody, it's ensuring that our older generation is supported and enjoys their life and has, gets to play music and be cognitively activated when they're living in assisted living facilities. This is the kind of passion we see in our founders and that I really just impresses me. Objectivity and accurate perception, right? So you've got to be a little bit crazy to jump into entrepreneurship, and sometimes you could get overly so. But at the end of the day, I think you do need to be objective. That external team can absolutely help with objectivity because they can tell you when you're wrong. Trust me, people tell me all the time, even a 19-year-old intern. So it could be that a new GLP-1 drug means that your weight loss company isn't going to be able to compete, and it's time to close up shop. It's 20 later. It could be that your sustainable solution to plates, papers, forks, knives that are biodegradable is impossible to do using a third-party manufacturer, and you're going to have to go all in and build your own manufacturing facility, and you're not going to be able to do it in the United States as much as you want to, and you're going to build a factory in Mexico and start making your own if you want to compete. And that's what Strawfish did. That's Kyle. Aquaco Farms, it may be that you need to bring in an expert in the field to go all in, and that you cannot do everything in complicated aquaculture farming pompano in fresh water, that's saltwater fish. It's not freshwater, but they're farming it inland, in saltwater, in tanks. In any case, you need an expert to do that. Great founder, Joe Cardenas. And of course, creativity. That's why you're here, right? Creative Mornings. I love this group. I love this idea. I don't know why nobody invited me before. You'll definitely see me at future Creative Mornings, not speaking, but listening. I think it's wonderful. And you do need some creativity. To me, creativity is the most interesting one, because I think the other ones are pretty straightforward, right? Like, I think they are. Perseverance, passion, that kind of stuff. Creativity is a kind of a loose cannon among them, because depending on your role, it may allow for more or less creativity, okay? What do I mean? Well, if you're a founder, you can kind of do whatever you want, right? You can pretend that people's spare rooms in their houses are hotels and that the owners are insured and properly ready to do that. That's Airbnb. You can pretend that anyone could just be a taxi driver. Forget about medallions. That's Uber, right? You could do these creative things. In an organization, not as much. So be cautious with creativity. I'll share one more quick story, then we'll wrap this thing up, right? So I got real creative one time here at Florida Atlantic University, and then I almost didn't work here anymore. So we have a lot of paperwork, a lot of forms. We love forms and like pieces of paper, signatures, clicking buttons on different software systems to make things go through. We love it here. It's really fantastic. Makes things go lightning fast. I needed this form to execute this program. This one happened to be kind of a financial form, but I needed it done. So I just made this form. I made a version of it, not like an official version, but it was used an official template and made my own form and just passed it along, right? Well, it turned out that I viewed this as being creative. The Florida Atlantic Police Department viewed this as financial fraud committed against the state of Florida. So it wasn't great. And it was a little bit too creative. So you just tread lightly there. You can be innovative anywhere. Anywhere you are, anywhere you're from, I assure you, you can do it, and I encourage you to be. Innovation is human, right? Begins wherever somebody believes things can be better. It does require courage, clarity, passion, and discipline. But you can do it. You don't need permission. You don't need the right background. You don't need funding. Anyone can do it with the right creativity and the right characteristics. And we're here to help. At Florida Atlantic University, this is the commercial part, we have a complete and robust, comprehensive ecosystem for founders, creatives, innovators, artists, just like you, and I'd encourage you to take advantage of that. It's all free. We have the Adams Center, the Runway, mentorship, research, community partners, Veterans Florida, ton of program. We're here to support you, challenge you, guide you, and celebrate you. Go build, go imagine, go create. That's it, Creative Morning.